My name is Erik Holland, and I'm a starving artist, which I really hate it when people laugh at that, because it means I'm near my freak-out point of 200 pounds, so I'll work on that. So, on one hand, don't buy a painting tonight, because then I won't be able to eat anymore. And on the other hand, buy a painting tonight, because my girlfriend and I will get home, because it came here from Reno. And I've been a working artist for 20 years. I've actually never had a real job. I know I look like I'm retired now, so people were saying, so what did you do when you had a real job? And I go, nothing. I did this. And that's what I've been fortunate enough to obviously not starve to be able to pursue this as a primary vocation for most of my adult life. So I'm happy about that, and I really appreciate everyone coming out to see my road trip tonight. I love going on road trips, and I was here about 4 years ago with the Highway 50 road trip, and it seemed to work really well to just kind of explain the paintings and where I was at and the circumstances under which I painted them. About half of what I do is plein air. I just want to check it and make sure I'm not too loud, because I'm very loud. So I'm trying to talk softly because I have this amplifier here. The basic premise of this show is a road trip along Highway 395, which I believe kind of starts, and it felt more to me like it didn't, but there's a town named Adelanto, and I think that's the beginning place of it. And you know how you talk about the fish that got away? The painting that got away didn't make it into the show, but I will probably paint later on, was the guy fixing a truck in the Wendy's parking lot there. You know the Wendy's parking lot, and this guy had like 3 teeth, and he had no transmission, and it was pretty much the end of the road, literally, figuratively, and whatever else so anyway, don't break your necks, but behind us is the southern part of the show. See landscapes from landscapes from the southern part of the show, and then I move towards the central. I think when everyone thinks about 395, everybody thinks about the Grand Sierra vistas and the soaring mountain peaks and that sort of thing. So this part talks or pictures that, and the painting on the far left, the little green painting, is like a twisted juniper tree, twisted cedar. And the one next to it is the same tree with pen and ink. My girlfriend and I have started, if you can believe it, I have a wonderful girlfriend who's not only wonderful, but she brews beer. So we've...
Where is she?
She's in the room. Don't all rush her, please. I met her because my brother never shuts up. I wish he was here. He was here 4 years ago. But the Twisted Cedar painting I'm drawing is actually one of our beers. It's called Twisted Cedar IPA. And we have a number of other small town brews. And the reason we're not marketing it is because one of the things as a digression, is being an artist, to my amazement, involves more paperwork. I do more paperwork than an accountant. I've actually done my own taxes for 15 years and never been audited. So I might have a second career when I retire from being an artist. I could probably become an accountant, because and then there's the sales tax. There's this, that. I mean, it's amazing how many ways there are to pay taxes. But I'm okay with paying my fair share. I don't mind it. But it's just interesting how much time a person spends doing taxes. So this one here is, that's a scene from fairly close to Reno, and it's the Eastern Sierra with a historical, has a historical component. Can anybody guess what the historical component is to the large painting with the snow? It's the snow, of course. That was painted a couple years ago when it still snowed. And so everybody, I presume that a lot of you have taken road trips and just kind of gotten into that, like, oh my God, this is great. You're driving, we're having fun, the music's going. And so this one is going north along 395, and that's a Whitney Peak painting, the big blue circular theme. And I like to create a circular flow in the painting when I'm working on compositions and things. Can you see how the eye just kind of flows around and around and around? And that's kind of how I felt the day that I sketched it. I'm never without my sketchbook. I even had to bring this thing up to the talk, partly because I had some notes for the talk, and partly because I'm always thinking of new paintings to do and sketching them. And this is Boundary Peak, which we saw on the way down. It was like the first time this winter I saw snow on it, as we've been up and down the highway 4 or 5 times, and it was beautiful. So this is how the paintings are sometimes born. The one next to the big blue painting is called Plain Air. I just stand outside and paint, and it comes out in 3 or 4 hours. And then this one's a studio painting, the big studio painting. So next door to that one is another studio painting taken from a photograph and from a sketch like this in a sketchbook of Mount Whitney. And that was visible from the motel that we stayed at that night, just looking up into the street and just like, wow, big and orange and beautiful. And then on that morning, we went out and I painted that little guy next to it. And so that's often how the paintings sometimes get started from a little sketch in the sketchbook that's always with me, even on dates. Or they start from small plein air sketches like that one and then turn into this. So being an artist like any other business is not without its pitfalls, and you have times when you try. So I seriously was jinxed with one particular subject, which was Mono Lake. So we went and did you see? I'm jinxed. So I hope I didn't break this. Is it still working? Everything still working? Okay. So went to Mono Lake to do a field trip. Come on, man. Point two. It's okay.
You are jinxed.
I'm jinxed. Okay, no, I'm not jinxed. This subject is jinxed. Okay, this was a small plein air that I keep saying we, this is me. But right, the best, me is a we? A we. Okay, so this was a small painting that we went out to Mono Lake. And the weather was iffy. It was almost kind of like today. So I set up and I'm painting, and I loudly proclaimed to my girlfriend that it was not going to rain. At which point it began not only raining ferociously, but the wind came up, blowing this painting down into the sand. So this is a mixed media piece. If you like, we can pass it around if it's not wet. Anyway, you can inspect this at your convenience after my talk. So, as you can see, there's a pattern here. I do the little one and I do the big one. The little one is often better than the big one, but it's all part of the process. So then I start doing the big one, right? And I'm working hard on this one in the studio throughout much of the past week. So it winds up on the bottom of the stack, and so it has this thing here.
We can't see it.
No, well then it's for sale, after all. We're going to put it in a show after all. Okay. So this is the halls of justice. I'm fascinated by buildings that tell a story, whether it's a bar which has a story, or a hotel that has a story, or a newspaper building has a story, or in this case, a seat of justice, a courthouse. So this one is the Mono County Courthouse in Bridgeport. It looks like a plein air painting. It looks like the kind of style you get when you stand out in the field and did it, but I've begun to take certain photographs and just say I'm going to spend 2.5 hours on this as if I was in the field and no more, and I can get myself in that same place. And then everybody loves a big sky. I love a big sky. I started out in Chicago in the 1970s looking up at the sky and wishing I wasn't in school. I've always loved the sky. So this, although it looks like an enormous, big, generic desert sky, was actually painted in plein air from the Virginia Street Bridge in Reno. But that's what you see. That's what you see. This is called the Carson Range east of Reno. And I was standing on the old Virginia Street Bridge, which is soon to be history if it isn't already. They're tearing it down this week. And I live in the artist lofts right there. Anybody familiar here with Reno? You're lucky. Just kidding. They're tearing down the bridge, and so the area in front of my loft is currently and will be for the next year a construction zone. And the Virginia Street Bridge is also was one of the most paintable things in Reno. So then I know that this is probably one of the most iconic, if you will, paintings in the show. Anybody that's done 395 at all has probably noticed this sign. I love this sign. The cafe is now closed. I believe, I think the town is Independence, or it might be Lone Pine, but it's one of those towns with the great big Sierra Massive over it. Had fun with this one. This was one of the ones I submitted to the museum when I applied for this show. And I realized that if I was going to have a show called the Road Trip Show, I probably should have a picture of a road. And just like every road trip has got to have a night like this, the starry sky, you're going fast, you're listening to Slayer, you're listening to Guns N' Roses, yeah, you're probably going too fast. You mistake the red lights in the back for the planet Mars, so you keep going. So I forgot about the audience. I forgot that I was coming to a town filled with rocket scientists. So someone buttonholed me just before the talk and said, "So what constellations are in there?" So this is a nebulae. This is a black hole. This is another black hole. The homeless guy here. And I had a lot of, and this one got the most Facebook likes. Does anybody here do Facebook? Yeah, I'm an addict. So this is Facebook stamp of approval. Any questions so far? Or should I take questions at the end? Okay. Any questions right now? So it's weird for me to go from south to north because I always do the other way, but that's okay. So now we're here and this painting almost didn't make the show. I've been fussing with painting for 5 years. And I was like, oh, it's too stiff, it's too this, it's too that. And a good friend, a wonderful person, said that should go. And so here it is. This is the minarets. And you can see very dimly as you head north on 395 and look to the left, you can see the minarets. This is a very, very sawtooth, distinctive shape of them. And when I brought it here, I realized, oh, that looks great under my name. So there it is. I'm glad, thank you, talking me into it. And then sometimes, this was not done in plein air. That was done from memory and a sketch. And I was hiking in the Sierra Nevada. We're getting farther north now, so this is probably someplace around the Carson Range, Carson Pass area, like Gardnerville stuff. But this is a beautiful red fir tree, and it looks a little like a rocket ship. So I was thinking about my audience with this painting. This is like a strategically hidden ICBM. Well, all of which I'm trying to say is I might fix that tree later. Here's the big beautiful moon and the awesome cold night. And this is dated 15 because I touched it up for the show, but I actually did most of it in 2011, which was the last year, at least in my neck of the woods, where we actually had snow up there. That was a great year. I was painting in a snow shelf on July 4th. That was the best year. It was a heavy winter. I love heavy winters. I lived in Alaska for 10 years, and so I tend to run really hot all the time, and I love cold weather. So this is one of my favorite paintings in the show. These two are both plein air paintings, and my girlfriend and I hike a lot, and I've started to paint with a new medium, experimental for me. They're water miscible oils, so you can use water to mix the oils, and they force you to work really thick. What's awesome about it is because I don't have to take toxic solvents with me, I'm not afraid to put the paint next to my lunch. And I understand we have a person here who I can check in with this stuff, but once I don't have those solvents in my backpack, I feel comfortable carrying the oil paint. So I'm really excited about this because everything I need to do a sweet, juicy little painting like this is in my backpack. And then I have a nice little tiny easel that I can just sling over my shoulder, and I'm just like, whoa, good to go. But unfortunately, we've got drought restrictions in Reno now, and I can't use the water miscible oils anymore because we have to save water. That's not lying. So this one here.
Use your beer, Erik. Yeah.
Use beer? Oh my God.
Not with the toxics.
Is that toxic? Okay, so this is just a classic in the field. Actually, this was done as a demonstration for, I do have something that resembles a real job. I'm a high school art teacher part-time, not certified. I just kind of got into it because I can deal with the kids and I know how to paint and I can pass that and I can put up with being cussed at a lot. So those are qualifications for the job. So this was actually done as a demonstration. In the wisdom, our principals decided to take us camping every October. So we went camping last October, and luckily for me, they allowed me. Oh yeah, go paint. You're a good example to the kids. So I demonstrated to the kids, which really meant that I painted alone while they played football, and all that sort of. A couple of the kids came by and said, "Oh, that's tight," or "That's shit," or some other stuff. That's sick. What? So this is a Galena Park. This is getting close to Reno now. So we've sort of traveled from the Central Sierra and the Southern. Now we're kind of in my neck of the woods. This is my most realistic painting. Sorry, I'm sorry. Don't be scared. I'm sorry. I almost tripped over him. Okay, so the Genoa bar. I was also convinced to bring. Sorry, I pick on your kid. I'm really sorry about that. So this one is a Genoa bar, which is we have now crossed from the great state of California into the great state of Nevada. Side note: most of this other stuff should be in Nevada. It's on the right. I'm sorry. Don't shoot. So this is the oldest thirst parlor in Nevada. It has quite a history. If you're ever up that way, stop in. It's not on 395 proper, but it's just off the road. Now, if you go in there, it's very historical. It's very historical. One of the interesting little tidbits I learned about this building, researching a show, was that they were going to do a commercial there for beer, but the people that patronize this bar didn't like Coors. So they had to have them drinking another kind of beer in the Coors. And the other thing, yeah. The other thing is that there's a tradition of bringing in your lingerie into this place. And so Sophia Loren's bra is in here. Like I Googled this. Sorry. So now, this is the old Lucky Spar in Carson City. And it no longer looks like this. This is a somewhat older painting. It's dated '04. For a long time, I struggled with the other half of it, and I decided I was just going to focus on the sign, which is what I really liked about it. Cut it in half. And this is next door to another bar called Jack's Bar, in which there's more legislation passed in that Jack's Bar than in the Nevada State Legislature across the street. And we have a fair, we just finished up our legislative session in Carson City, so the crime rate has dropped. The weather has improved because the permanent low pressure that's over Carson City with our hot air rising and bringing in the fronts, that's one good thing about them. They caused the weird wet spell. If you guys have noticed, the weather's been unusually wet in the last 2 to 3 months. It's the Nevada legislature talking about tax increases, which they passed. We have a governor in Nevada named Brian Sandoval, who I used to call the Hunkinator, because he's really good looking, and he's also kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger was, sort of a moderate, reasonable, but disciplined Republican. And so I tried to get the name of Hunkinator to stick, but it never did. But now he doesn't deserve it anymore because he just passed and pushed for the largest tax increase in Nevada's history. Every time we get a Republican governor in Nevada, we get tax increases. And so the Democrats were like, we were all like, oh my God, it's a Republican legislature, Republican governor. Oh, blah, blah. And what they got was more funding for education. So I'm not going to get too political. I spend too much time doing that. If I would only, that's the other thing I've done is run for office several times, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to focus on this. With that, and beer. This is kind of a generic scene of a northern Nevada-ish, and my girlfriend and I saw some antelope in the field, which I put into the painting, and without breaking your necks, unless there's a good chiropractor in town, over there is I love buildings that tell a story, and that is the oldest. Please don't tell me it's the best, but that's the oldest painting in the show. The spokesman reviews this funky old newspaper office in Spokane, which is along the route of 395, which then peters out as you head to the north at a small town on the Canadian border, which I intended to Google it and get the name of that town down, but I didn't get a chance to. So I do really appreciate everyone coming out. I hope you've enjoyed my talk and the paintings, and feel free to ask any questions. Yes?
It may be short memory, or I wasn't listening, but your third painting on that wall.
That one there?
You had said something about it was something special about it. Extra special historically, or something?
Yeah, the historical element in that painting is indeed the snow.
It was just the snow you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm being a smart aleck, but in fact there's...
Well, I'm sure glad I asked the question.
Yeah, feel free to clarify, because as you can see, I got kind of silly after the painting fell out of the frame. I just lost it, so it's okay.
Well, I thought it would be...
Because I tried to be serious and be like an artist, you know.
I thought it would be a hanging or something really important.
Well, now that you bring it up. No, it's the snow.
The snow's good.
Yeah, it's the snow.
Pardon?
You can make up something.
Okay.
There may well be some. Yes.
How many paintings have you painted in your life?
I'm going to need to refer that question to the nuclear physicist in the building, because I don't know how to add that high. The serious answer is probably 1,000. Most of them are terrible. Thank you for asking. Yes? Oh, you're not bidding, okay. She's stretching?
What is your favorite painting of all of these?
What's the question?
The question is, what is my favorite painting in the show? Well, I said that was the most iconic. The most iconic. I think my favorite painting in the show is this one. I just love it. It's juicy. It's rich. I painted it on a hike with my water-based oils, which is my new toy. I think this is my favorite. There's a couple others that come close. Thanks for asking.
Ask her what her favorite is.
What's your favorite?
I like the Starlight and what's that? The big painting in the back.
That's Whitney Peak in wildness. Thank you. Yeah, good choices. Yes, was there another question? Yes?
I thought you liked the ICBM.
This is a contender. I mean, if the little juicy one wasn't in it, I mean, I do like this one because of the comet inherent in it, and it's cool. It's cool and different. Not many people paint this. Okay, I'll admit that this kind of picture, a lot of plein air artists paint pictures like this, but this picture is a kind of picture that's like, that's different. So this is close. This is close. Yes?
What makes you choose to frame some of these traditionally as others are, just the standard canvas without, the massive, the fancy frame? I can't.
That's money, but more seriously, there's actually another answer too. And the other answer is, well, it is money in that the big paintings are simply harder and more expensive to frame. So I generally don't frame them anymore. They're harder to transport. You'll spend $100 on a frame and then have someone ask you to take the frame off. And I like the little black frames on the little paintings, but I can't afford them. But the reason they say that you can get away with gallery wrap, this is a gallery wrap, and so that's become acceptable in galleries and museums.
Gallery wrap.
Well, do you see how this wraps around? That's called gallery wrap. This is a true gallery wrap where there's about an inch in there. And then truthfully, this is me cheating a little bit, but we can get away with that. And then paint around the sides.
Yeah, do you have the same color wrap as the colors that are within the art piece?
Yes. Yeah, you're supposed to sort of paint around the sides and miss a spot. But yeah, it's nicely presented when you paint around the sides like I did here. Continue the color. Sometimes people just paint a solid color around the edge. Any other questions? Appreciate it. I really enjoyed giving this presentation as I did here.